The United States of America has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. For decades, the criminal justice system in the country has largely been punitive, emphasizing punishment over rehabilitation. This approach has led to overcrowded prisons, recidivism rates that remain stubbornly high, and communities devastated by cycles of incarceration. But what if the U.S. prison system fundamentally changed its focus, prioritizing rehabilitation and reintegration over punishment and incarceration? What would happen if this shift became the new norm and guiding principle for criminal justice policies across the country? To begin, such a transformation would represent a radical paradigm shift in how society views crime and justice. Instead of seeing offenders primarily as criminals to be locked away, the system would treat them as individuals capable of change and growth. The emphasis would be on addressing the root causes of criminal behavior, such as poverty, lack of education, mental health issues, and substance abuse. Rehabilitation would mean providing inmates with the tools, education, and support they need to become productive members of society upon release. One of the immediate effects of this shift would be a dramatic change in prison environments. Currently, many American prisons resemble warehouses, designed more for containment and control than for fostering rehabilitation. Overcrowding, violence, and harsh conditions often exacerbate the problems inmates face. But if rehabilitation became central, prisons would transform into centers for learning, therapy, and skill building. Educational programs would expand vastly. Research shows that access to education significantly reduces recidivism. Teaching inmates literacy, vocational skills, and even college-level courses would prepare them for gainful employment after release. Programs in trades such as carpentry, plumbing, culinary arts, and technology could equip prisoners with marketable skills. This shift would also encourage partnerships with universities, nonprofits, and private companies to create pipelines for education and job placement. Mental health services would become a cornerstone of rehabilitation. Many inmates struggle with untreated mental illness, trauma, or substance use disorders. Expanding counseling, therapy, and addiction treatment inside prisons would address these issues at their core, rather than simply punishing behaviors caused or exacerbated by them. Staff training would also evolve, with correctional officers receiving education on mental health awareness, de-escalation techniques, and trauma-informed care. The role of prison staff would change dramatically. Instead of focusing primarily on security and discipline, staff would become facilitators of rehabilitation programs and mentors for inmates. This requires a cultural change within correctional departments and significant investment in training and resources. Reintegration efforts would be equally vital. Too often, former inmates face enormous barriers after release: lack of housing, unemployment, social stigma, and broken family relationships. A rehabilitation-focused system would include comprehensive re-entry programs to smooth the transition back into society. This could involve job placement services, housing assistance, mental health follow-up, and community support networks. A critical component of reintegration would be involving families and communities in the process. Programs that support family reunification and counseling could repair strained relationships, which are often vital for reducing recidivism. Community organizations could partner with corrections agencies to provide mentorship and social services. Such a systemic shift would require policy changes at every level of government. Sentencing reforms would be necessary to reduce incarceration rates for nonviolent offenders and increase the use of alternatives such as probation, parole, and restorative justice. Drug offenses, which make up a significant portion of the prison population, would be approached with treatment rather than imprisonment. Judges would have greater discretion to sentence offenders to rehabilitation programs instead of jail time. This transformation would also necessitate investment in infrastructure. Many existing prisons are not suited to rehabilitation-focused programs and would require renovation or replacement. Building new facilities designed to foster education, therapy, and community connection would be a priority. Economically, the benefits of such a shift could be substantial. The cost of incarceration in the U.S. is extremely high, with estimates exceeding $80 billion annually. Rehabilitation and reintegration programs, while requiring upfront investment, have been shown to reduce recidivism and lower the long-term costs associated with repeat incarceration. Additionally, enabling former inmates to secure employment and contribute to the economy would have positive ripple effects. Socially, reducing incarceration and emphasizing rehabilitation would begin to heal some of the deep scars caused by mass incarceration, particularly in marginalized communities disproportionately affected by tough-on-crime policies. The stigma attached to incarceration would gradually diminish as society embraces the idea that people can change and be reintegrated successfully. Of course, such a fundamental change would not be without challenges. There would be political opposition from those who view rehabilitation as being soft on crime. There would be logistical hurdles in training staff and scaling programs nationwide. There might be public fear and resistance to the idea of releasing former offenders into communities, especially in the short term. However, evidence from other countries that emphasize rehabilitation offers hope. Nations like Norway, Sweden, and Germany have prison systems with a strong rehabilitative focus and significantly lower recidivism rates than the US. Norway, for instance, treats inmates with dignity and invests heavily in education, therapy, and community integration. The results are remarkable. Norway's recidivism rate hovers around 20% compared to the US rate, which can exceed 60%. Transitioning to such a system in the US would require political will, public education, and a long-term commitment to justice reform. It would also require addressing systemic issues such as racial disparities in incarceration and poverty, which fuel cycles of crime. Let's delve deeper into the impact on specific populations. For juveniles, rehabilitation is already a central principle in many places, but many juvenile detention centers remain punitive. A more holistic approach would prioritize education, mental health care, and family involvement. This could drastically reduce the number of youths who age out of juvenile detention only to become adult offenders. Women in prison who often have histories of trauma and are primary caregivers to children would benefit greatly from rehabilitative programs tailored to their unique needs. Parenting programs, trauma therapy, and support for maintaining family ties would help reduce recidivism among women. The impact on communities could be transformative. Reducing incarceration rates and focusing on rehabilitation would help rebuild neighborhoods torn apart by mass incarceration. Children with incarcerated parents would face fewer disruptions in their lives, potentially reducing intergenerational cycles of poverty and crime. Education systems and communities would benefit as well. Currently, many schools are affected by the trauma and instability associated with high incarceration rates. With fewer families disrupted by imprisonment, children's academic outcomes could improve, helping break cycles of disadvantage. On a cultural level, the arts and media might shift to portray more nuanced views of crime and justice, highlighting stories of redemption and transformation rather than punishment and despair. This could influence public attitudes and increase support for rehabilitative justice. The prison industrial complex, which profits from mass incarceration, would face disruption. Private prison companies and industries reliant on inmate labor would have to adapt to a system with fewer inmates and more emphasis on education and therapy. This could face fierce resistance from entrenched interests, but would ultimately benefit society by focusing resources on positive outcomes rather than profits. Let's consider the economic impact in greater detail. Rehabilitation and reintegration programs could open new job markets, from social work and counseling to education and vocational training. Former inmates who gain skills and support would contribute more effectively to the economy, paying taxes and reducing reliance on social services. Studies have shown that every dollar invested in prison education saves $4 to $5 in reincarceration costs. At the same time, communities that have suffered economic decline due to mass incarceration could experience revitalization. Small businesses, community organizations, and social enterprises focused on re-entry services could flourish. One area often overlooked is the environmental impact of incarceration. Prisons consume large amounts of energy and resources, and sprawling prison complexes contribute to urban and rural sprawl. Reducing prison populations and rethinking prison design could lower the environmental footprint of the criminal justice system. The justice system itself would become more equitable. Racial disparities in incarceration are stark in the US, with Black and Hispanic populations disproportionately represented in prisons. A rehabilitative focus combined with sentencing reform and community investment could reduce these disparities and promote social justice. In terms of national security, focusing on rehabilitation would mean a shift in how threats are identified and addressed. Rather than relying solely on incarceration to incapacitate dangerous individuals, the system would prioritize treatment, risk assessment, and community-based supervision. This could reduce the likelihood of radicalization and improve public safety in the long run. Let's imagine a day in the life of an inmate in a rehabilitation-focused prison. Instead of long hours of idleness or violence, the individual might start the day attending vocational classes, followed by group therapy or counseling. Afternoons could involve working in community gardens or workshops where they learn practical skills. Evenings might be spent connecting with family through supervised visits or video calls. This environment would be supportive rather than punitive, designed to help the person grow and prepare for life beyond prison walls. For those released, comprehensive support systems would help them find housing, employment, and reconnect with family. Peer mentorship programs could provide guidance from former inmates who have successfully reintegrated. This network of support would be crucial to reducing the chances of relapse into crime. Technological advancements would play a vital role. Online education platforms could expand learning opportunities inside prisons, while data analytics could help identify inmates at risk of recidivism and tailor interventions accordingly. Telemedicine could improve access to healthcare services for incarcerated populations. Public attitudes would be key to the success of this system. Educating the public about the benefits of rehabilitation, addressing fears about crime, and highlighting success stories would build support. Media campaigns and community engagement could shift perceptions from punishment to second chances. In conclusion, shifting the U.S. prison system to focus on rehabilitation and reintegration is a monumental challenge, but also an unprecedented opportunity. It would require rethinking deeply ingrained beliefs about justice, significant investment in programs and infrastructure, and collaboration across government, communities, and private sectors. The potential benefits in reduced crime, economic growth, social healing, and human dignity make this vision worth pursuing. The road ahead would be complex, requiring trial, error, and adaptation. But by embracing rehabilitation, America could move toward a more just, effective, and humane criminal justice system that benefits individuals and society as a whole. Thank you for watching this extensive exploration of what might happen if the U.S. prison system prioritized rehabilitation and reintegration. If you found this insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into pressing social issues. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you envision the future of criminal justice?